Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to why Texas interchange is so tall. Now US interchanges in general are just massive, but Texas, I mean they're saying everything's bigger in Texas. I mean I guess it just goes to literally everything, as the saying says. Even interchanges. I didn't really know this was a thing in terms of Texas having bigger interchanges. I just thought the US in general has huge interchanges and massive roads and highways, etc. But I guess we're going to go into Texas and how theirs are so big, or why they're so big, and yeah, we're just going to see that. Hopefully going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon where you see reactions that I can't post to YouTube, movies, TV series reactions, music reactions, stuff that I can't post here. Links are there for those who want to see that. But let's see this video and see why this is the case.
This is the Dallas High Five, one of the tallest.
Bloody hell, that is massive. This just confuses me. Like the engineering for this, man, I mean, obviously it takes a long time to do it, but one little thing gone wrong. I mean, this is obviously a stupid thing to say because obviously they're going to get it right. But there's just so many roads linking to other roads and highways. It would confuse the hell out of me.
Highway interchanges in the world.
That's huge.
It gets
3
its
layers.
name from the fact that there are 5 different levels of roadways.
Oh, 5, not 3, 5. Well, yeah, because there's this one, this one, this one, this one. And then there's other ones that go underneath. Okay, that is mad.
Crossing each other in this one spot. In some ways, it's kind of atrocious, right? It's this enormous area of land dedicated to a complex spaghetti of concrete and steel, like the worst symbol of our car-obsessed culture. But in another way, it really is an impressive feat of engineering.
Hell yeah.
37 bridges and more than 700 columns are crammed into this one spot to keep the roughly 500,000 vehicles flowing in every direction each day. They say everything's bigger in Texas, but that's not always true when it comes to engineering projects in the US. The tallest concrete dam is split between Arizona and Nevada. The longest bridge span is in New York. The longest road tunnel is in Alaska, and the longest water tunnel, not only in the US, but the whole world, is the Delaware Aqueduct in New York. The largest hydroelectric plant is the Grand Coulee Dam in Washington, while the largest nuclear plant is in Georgia. But one thing that Texas really does do bigger is highway interchanges. If you've driven from one major Texas highway onto or over another, you may have been astonished to find yourself and your vehicle well over 100 feet or 30 meters above the ground. There's no clearinghouse of data for flyover ramp heights as far as I can find. Plus, there's the complexity of what a true height really means, since many interchanges use excavation below grade for the lower level.
I wonder what this sort of interchange looks like driving on it. Say you're driving on it from like this direction. Oh, sorry, this direction, or coming this way. And you're just driving. Actually, no, that's not even the lowest point. This is the lowest point. This way, you're driving on one of these roads. And then you just see this above you. Like, obviously, maybe if you're from the US, it's something that you've got a familiar sight of this stuff because you probably drove through similar things like this. But from the UK, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything more than just a bridge over the top, honestly. So it would just be this one here. The one that goes over this bridge here. That's probably the most I've ever seen. This would be like seeing that times 10. Now, this would be a wild sort of sight to behold. But obviously from this view, it looks pretty cool, to be honest.
Use excavation below grade,
just below
the lower level. Still, even the most conservative estimate puts the High Five taller than the Statue of Liberty from her feet to the top of her head.
Wow.
And if you do a little digging, you'll find that many, if not most, of the tallest highway interchanges in the world are right here in the Lone Star State. Let's talk about why. I'm Grady, and this is Practical Engineering.
Here we go.
The idea of a freeway really started in the 1920s with what's now the Autostrada A8 in Italy, an automobile-only road with controlled access. Freeways are separated from local roads with limited ways to get on and off. And if you've driven a vehicle in the past century, the idea of a controlled access freeway is pretty much taken for granted. Smooth curves and limited chances to enter or exit mean more speed and more capacity. But eventually, those big roads intersect other roads, sometimes other big roads, and that creates an obvious challenge. Unlike most roads that cross at the same level on the ground, or as engineers say, at grade, freeways use grade separation at intersections. Roads go over or under one another. No traffic signals, stopping, or interruptions. Again, this is nothing groundbreaking. But what if you want to turn from one road onto another? Just like that, we've gone from an intersection to an interchange, and this is where things get a lot more complicated. But we have to build up to it. The diamond interchange is probably the simplest way to get grade separation because it kind of half doesn't. Through traffic on the freeway flows right by, in most cases without any need to slow down. But that's not true at the crossroad. Ramps enter and exit the highway at gentle angles and meet the crossroad nearly at right angles. Viewed from above, the ramps form a rough diamond shape, giving the interchange its name. The intersections of the ramps and the crossroad are just that, intersections. They're usually controlled by stop signs or traffic signals. Diamond interchanges can often get away with having just one bridge, a relatively small one carrying the crossroad over the highway. So this can be the cheapest and easiest type of interchange to build. But those intersections create limitations on how much traffic it can handle, so it's really only used when the crossroad is a minor one. This kind of interchange is sometimes called a service interchange, in contrast to a system interchange, where two controlled access highways cross.
Bruh.
As traffic increases, the only way to increase capacity is to eliminate at-grade intersections. So the largest interchanges implement grade separation for every lane. The classic system interchange is the cloverleaf. 4 ramps form a diamond, usually for the right-hand turns. These are directional ramps. That is, they curve toward the ultimate direction the traveler's trying to go. You exit right.
I've never actually seen these like in person. I've seen them in like City Skylines, which is just a game where you just get these pre-made roads. But I've never actually seen these. I don't think I've even really seen these in the US, unless I've literally just seen it right now and I just couldn't really see it as the same thing. But I mean, it obviously makes sense and it makes it a lot easier. It's a very simple way to do it as well.
And end up driving to the right. The other 4 ramps give the cloverleaf its name. The loop ramps, usually used for left-hand turns, curve around while ascending or descending so they can cross over themselves. So you can get traffic flowing in any direction with no at-grade intersections and just one bridge. The loop ramps make the whole thing look like...
Oh, here we go. It's literally a depiction of the exact same thing.
Like a 4-leaf clover. But finding yourself on this type of interchange doesn't usually feel very lucky. For one, the loops are often pretty tight, requiring motorists to slow way down. And for 2, there's the weave. Consider traffic entering the highway from one of the loops. In the same place, vehicles are trying to get back up to speed and merge left onto the freeway. Drivers trying to exit the highway are slowing down.
I guess there's quite a lot of collisions from this, right?
And moving right. This inevitably creates traffic as people struggle to merge and cross paths with one another. Along with suboptimal traffic conditions, cloverleaf interchanges eat up a lot of land. When cloverleafs were at the height of popularity in the mid-20th century, land was plentiful and there were fewer cars, but as the volume of traffic increased and the cost of land went up, engineers had to come up with new solutions to build better grade-separated highway crossings, and so they did. Now, there's such a huge variety of freeway interchange designs that it would be impossible to cover them all. The turbine, the windmill, the braided interchange, the ITL, mixes of various designs, and more. Each of these balances the constraints of a project like this in different ways: land requirements, cost, capacity, safety, etc. And the design that generally provides the most capacity on the smallest footprint, often for the highest cost, is the stack. Like the cloverleaf, a stack has 4 directional ramps, usually for the right-hand turns. But we move the exit for the left-hand turn off the main highway to avoid the weaving problem and fly them over the middle of the intersection where they meet up with the opposite directional ramp. These ramps are often called flyovers, and it's easy to see.
So this one has 1, 2... There's a good 3 or 4 layers in this one as well.
why. The gentle curves and elevation changes of the stack mean that drivers can safely maintain speed, whether they're going straight through the interchange or changing direction. The curved ramps often bank to the inside of the curve, called super elevation, making it even easier to maintain speed through the turn. This conventional configuration is called a 4-level stack. There's 1 level for the freeway, another for the crossing freeway to pass over, and 2 levels for the flyovers. It's bridges on bridges, each one providing enough clearance underneath for large trucks. So these upper ramps end up pretty high off the ground. 4-level stacks are actually fairly ubiquitous in the US these days. These are impressive structures in their own right, but This is where Texas takes it to another level, literally.
Here we go.
And it mostly has to do with feeder or frontage roads. Lots of highways use frontage roads running parallel to connect areas alongside that would otherwise be cut off from the roadway network. They allow businesses to develop right up to and facing the freeway with easy access to those coming on and off it, basically keeping areas attached to the roadway network. Texas took the idea and ran with it. Apparently, they started as a way to reduce the cost of acquiring land for road projects. If you could promise the landowner access to a new highway along a frontage road, you're making their property more valuable, so they're willing to sell a portion for the highway at a much lower cost. Now, Texas has over 6,400 miles or 10,300 kilometers of frontage roads. That's almost the circumference of the moon, and as far as I can tell...
Just in Texas? God damn.
Frontage roads. That's almost the circumference of the moon, and as far as I can tell, way more than any other state in the US. I won't go into the pros and cons of this approach here. Some research has shown pretty conclusively that the money saved on acquisition costs doesn't really make up for their many disadvantages. And Texas has since...
Look at this. So this is, I don't remember the term that he gave for this one, but yeah, this is another 4-layer one at least.
Changed its policy to only include frontage roads on new freeways where necessary and justified. Although from what I can tell from seeing new construction these days, there don't seem to be many projects where they've been left out.
That's quite mad to see the process of them actually building it. So this one's going to go over this one and eventually. Because it's sort of turning in, unless that's just how they're sort of building it in. I don't really know. It's fascinating as hell, because I've never seen anything like this in my life.
And one major effect of putting frontage roads alongside every highway happens at interchanges, because these are more roads that need grade separation from all the others. So at stack interchanges around the state, there aren't just 4 levels, but 5. In fact, this kind of interchange is often referred to as the Texas stack because it's so popular here. In a typical configuration, one freeway goes below grade at the bottom level, the frontage roads sit at grade, the crossing freeway is elevated, then there are 2 layers of flyovers. With a minimum vertical clearance of 16 feet or about 5 meters, plus the thickness of each bridge, vehicles on the highest flyovers are often more than 100 feet or 30 meters above the ground. It's a nice way to get a good look at the city, even if you only get to enjoy the view for a moment. The Dallas High 5 is probably the most famous interchange in Texas with its cool nickname, but it doesn't stand alone. There are quite a few 5-level stacks around the state, and even a couple that qualify as 6-level stacks with flyovers connecting to other highways. My friend Brian, better known as the Texas Highwayman, documents a lot of new construction in Texas, including this replacement of an old cloverleaf crossing with a 5-level stack in San Antonio. These flyovers will be higher than a 12-story building when they're done. The frontage roads for this new interchange use a pretty innovative concept. 4 partial roundabouts.
How much would it cost to build like one of these? So the one that he's mentioning is now being built here. How much would this cost? It's got to be in the hundreds of millions, right? Because the engineering behind it, you've got to obviously use the best materials possible to make sure it's as sturdy and as strong as possible. Hundreds of millions. It's probably built. Oh, is that? Nah, that's a bit. I don't know if that's a bit extreme. I don't really know the prices. I'm thinking 100. Over any sort of millions. So in the billions. I think I'm having the feeling that that's just a bit excessive. But at the same time, they're long stretches of road. They're using the best materials, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're billions. I just don't know the pricing for this sort of stuff. But yeah, how much would this sort of average one here cost to make?
Roundabouts morph into one funny-shaped roundabout that's been lovingly nicknamed the fidget spinner. Of course, Texas stacks don't only exist in the Lone Star State. The Big I is another famous interchange in Albuquerque, decorated with a tumbleweed snowman each winter. The Judge Harry Pregerson interchange in Los Angeles gets its 5th level, not for frontage roads, but for the high occupancy lane. Plus, it has a railroad, which I always appreciate.
Oh, damn.
Not just because I like trains, but also because it's a reminder that these artfully sculpted ribbons of concrete, carefully woven together, represent a tremendous investment of public money, our money, into a way of getting people from A to B that has a lot of downsides.
I mean, it's all down to efficiency, I guess, but I guess when it comes to that, there's going to be issues and stuff that people don't like, but I guess there's no perfect way to create roads like this at the end of the day. It's just the best that they can do.
Everyone has different thoughts about what a city should look like, but there's a growing recognition that the way we prioritize motor vehicle traffic in the US may not have been the best path forward. And so I admit that my ideal city has a lot fewer of these towering interchanges that kind of stand as a testament to a transportation network that doesn't necessarily reflect our highest values and aspirations. But I still find them pretty impressive in their own right, and whenever I'm in a new city, I try to plan my driving to hit those tallest ramps at the top of the stack to get a bigger, if momentary, perspective on the built environment. It's always a nice reminder of our capacity for grand designs and ambitious projects, even if they might not always be the best solutions. Some of the most interesting interchanges I've ever seen were...
Where is this? Driving with this much traffic would give me such bad anxiety. There's literally no room for error. You just gotta go, and you can't miss your turn, because if you do, you're screwed. God damn it, this is insane. I don't know what city this is, but I'm just gonna guess like LA. But the buildings don't look like LA. It's probably just Texas, right? But look at that, it's all the way along, and there's probably more as well.
We're in Beijing, China. I visited my now wife there when she was working as a teacher, and I love seeing how different all their infrastructure is. But planning that trip was an enormous challenge. China blocks a lot of US websites, including some of the services we use to stay in touch. We used VPNs to get around the censorship.
He's getting an ad in? Love that. Get that money, baby. Impossible to cover them all. That's quitter talk. Give me that 5-hour long interchange extravaganza. Vehicle slowing is a strong term for that traffic. When I was there, we just sort of oozed. I can say from personal experience that these things are not only impressive feats of engineering, but almost impossible to build. It's a terrible mess of slope, too steep, invalid shape, and that's not even mentioning getting those pylons to land exactly between. That's what I was thinking. Like, you gotta have the perfect spots to put them down and stuff. The U-turn before an overpass, the best Texas road item. It's this terrible thing, but the engineering is impressive. Describes too many things that I like. Petition for Grady to make a video where he describes every interchange design. Well, there we go. I mean, everything's bigger in Texas. We see that, but at the same time, I mean, he mentioned obviously other interchanges throughout, I think Albuquerque, he said, and California, where they have 5 levels as well. And yeah, it's really fascinating to see this stuff. But I guess for you guys, it's probably a very common occurrence where you're just driving over these things and you don't really think twice about it because you're just so used to it. But I just want to see biggest interchange in the UK. Are they called interchange? The Almondsbury interchange in South Gloucestershire, so it's nowhere near me. I mean, to be fair, it's not as big, but you look at this. This is. I wouldn't picture this in the UK, but there we go. Oh, this is like 1, 2. There's 4 here. So I mean, I say that there definitely are some in the UK. This one looks alright as well. It looks quite clean. I mean, maybe I'm just using my British bias. I feel like it fits in quite well, but maybe I'm not really viewing it right. But there we go. But I've never seen one in my county and near me. I've never seen one in general like that, to be honest. I say the most I've ever seen is maybe one for sure. 2 above, maybe. I can't recollect that, but it's a possibility. But yeah, that's this video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.